"I thought I was just pouring coffee for strangers," the waitress said softly, staring into the crowd, "but I didn't know one quiet girl would change my life forever." And as she stood on that stage, surrounded by cameras and reporters, her voice trembled, but her eyes were bright with memories. This wasn't just a story about kindness. It was about how one act of compassion, repeated over time, could echo louder than a shout. But let's go back to where it all began. The diner opened every morning at 6 a.m. sharp. It wasn't glamorous. In fact, the linoleum floors were cracked, the coffee machine coughed more than it poured, and the bell over the door always jingled half a second too late. But it was a haven for early risers, night shift workers, and those drifting somewhere in between. Riley Bennett, 28, worked the early morning shift at Marge's Diner on 9th and Lowell. Her ponytail was always messy, shoes worn thin, and apron spotted with memories of pancakes, coffee spills, and long hours. She was used to faces coming and going. Most people didn't even look her in the eye. But one girl, maybe 9 or 10 years old, started showing up every day at 6:15. She never ordered much. Just toast. Dry. And a glass of water. She always sat at the same booth near the window, her small frame dwarfed by the vinyl seat, a tattered backpack always clutched to her chest. She never spoke unless spoken to. Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper. And Riley couldn't figure her out. No parent. No friend. No smile. Just, there. Every morning. At first, Riley thought she was just shy. Maybe waiting for school to start. But when she noticed the girl had holes in her sweater, bruises on her forearm, and once flinched when the bell above the door rang too loud, Riley's instinct screamed something else. So she started slipping extras onto her plate. Scrambled eggs. A piece of bacon. A tiny orange juice she'd pay for out of her tips. She never asked for thanks. And the girl never said it. But every morning, she came back. Weeks passed. Fall turned into winter. The mornings got darker, and Riley's worries deepened. One day, she found a crumpled note left under the girl's plate. It simply read, "Thank you. You're the only person who sees me." That note wrecked her. She wanted to ask who the girl was, where she lived, who she belonged to, but she was afraid of pushing too hard, afraid the girl would disappear. So instead, she tried to make the diner feel like home. She brought in a small Christmas tree. Put chocolate sprinkles on her toast. Sometimes sat with her after her shift and colored pictures from a kid's menu. She found out her name was Lena. Nothing else. Just Lena. It was a Thursday morning when everything shattered. The bell rang. But this time, it wasn't a sleepy customer or a tired cop. It was two large men in black suits. Earpieces. Stern faces. Bodyguards. And between them walked a tall man in a charcoal suit, sharp eyes scanning the room like he owned it. He walked straight to Lena's booth, leaned down, and whispered something. Lena's face went pale. Riley dropped her coffee pot. The man turned to her and said with clipped precision, "Thank you for keeping my daughter company." Riley was stunned. Daughter? Before she could speak, Lena clung to her, hugging her tight, tears running down her cheeks. The bodyguards looked uncomfortable. The man didn't move. Then Lena whispered, "Please don't let him take me." Riley's heart raced. This wasn't some runaway or orphan. This was someone important. Someone hidden. The man introduced himself, Victor Carrington. A billionaire. CEO of a global tech empire. Featured in Forbes, Time, and just about every rich list imaginable. Lena was his daughter. He said she'd been temporarily placed in a private location after her mother died in a plane crash last year. But she escaped. She didn't want to return. She was grieving, he said coldly. Children act out. But she's safe now. But Riley saw something in Lena's eyes that Victor didn't. Fear. Victor offered Riley money. An envelope filled with hundreds, maybe thousands. She refused. You don't pay for kindness, she said quietly. He paused. For the first time, his expression faltered. Lena cried harder. Please don't let them take me back. I don't want to be alone again. Riley knew what that kind of loneliness felt like. She'd been in foster care. Passed from house to house until she aged out. She knew what it was like to cry in the dark and hear no answer. So she did something wild. She stepped in front of Victor, looked him in the eyes, and said, then maybe you should try seeing her, the way I do. What followed was not a clean fight. There were meetings. Lawyers. Child services. And a media frenzy once someone snapped a photo of Lena clinging to Riley at the diner. But Victor wasn't cruel. Just, disconnected. Lost in his empire, too broken after his wife's death to notice his daughter slipping away. He agreed to therapy. With Lena. With himself. And once, he asked Riley to join them. Not as a caretaker. Not as an employee. As family. Because in all his billions, he realized no one had shown his daughter more love than the waitress at the corner diner. It's been 3 years. The diner is still there. The coffee machine still sputters. The bell still jingles too late. But Riley doesn't pour coffee anymore. She's the founder of Lena's Light, a non-profit that supports children in grief, trauma, and silence, because she knows what it means to be unseen. And Lena? She's 11 now. She laughs freely, sings off-key, and holds Riley's hand like it's her anchor. And Victor? He speaks slower now. He listens more. And he never travels without Lena, or Riley. Back on that stage, under the bright lights, Riley ends her story. One morning, I gave a lonely girl an extra piece of toast. I thought I was saving her. But in truth, she saved me.